Welcome, welcome. Hopefully we have, I see some folks joining. We will give everyone a couple of minutes before we officially get started. But thank you for joining, and we are so looking forward to this conversation.
It's a beautiful day outside.
It is. It's so nice.
I'm going to enjoy it outside today.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you for those who have joined us already. We will be getting started. We're going to give everybody just a couple minutes to join, and we're going to make sure that we don't hold you up from the beautiful weather outside. Really excited about today's conversation and the panelists. Season 4 for Adama Art Salon.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Dr. Pico?
Register. Stop pressing buttons. I was like, where'd y'all go?
We're still here. We're still here. We will go ahead and get started and continue to welcome folks as they are able to join. Happy Sunday. Happy first Sunday of fall. Happy beautiful weather outside. So for those of you who don't know, the African Diaspora Art Museum of Atlanta was founded by artist and scholar Dr. Fahamu Peku. Adama is an innovative museum concept highlighting the global Black experience. Our programmatic mission is to present and advance the exploration and conversations around 21st century contemporary art and culture of the African diaspora through exhibitions, programs, and artist residencies. We're based here in Atlanta, Georgia, and Adama will become a destination for representations and the diverse stories of Africa and its diaspora. Currently, we're working with other Atlanta-based institutions by consulting and curating programs and events that underscore our mission. Today, we kick off season 4 of the Art Salon. This is episode 24, started back in March of 2020 during the beginnings of this pandemic. Dr. Peku and the rest of the board thought that this was a wonderful way to engage with our audience and our supporters. And here we are in season 4. And I was really excited to be asked to curate this current season. And while a little nervous, just because I realized that my reach and my understanding really was limited to Atlanta, and Fahamu most certainly assured that Atlanta, as he stated before, is an incomparable muse, right? So Atlanta does so many things. And so this season, we will focus on Atlanta's local arts economy and our global influence. My name is Asohe Galbraith. My background is actually logistics and engineering. I've been in Atlanta for 18 years. And leaving corporate because I felt underappreciated, overworked, underpaid, all of those things, I decided that I wanted to work with people who I could really enjoy and who would appreciate me. Thinking back, I had a friend who said, if you could continue to do things for free, what is it that you would do? My mom's a serial entrepreneur and creative, always coming up with these creative ideas, but she didn't like checking the boxes and handling the logistics portions of things. So it was like, hey, how many tickets for this concert do I need to sell to do this thing? You know, like if I set up this store, like what do those profit margins need to look like? And then I also ended up marrying a visual artist, my husband, George Galbraith, and I recognized that I had skill sets that could help my rock stars, the arts community. And so that's what I've been doing for the past 6 years full-time. Founded Sohey Solutions to help creatives, especially in the areas of accounting, finance, and organization, and also co-founded Articulate ATL with another wonderful group of 3 people. And so just thinking about pop-up art experiences and non-traditional art experiences and how important they really are to be a part of this ecosystem, I thought this would be a first great conversation. Another quote, just no matter what continent, country, or city we're in, the influence of the African diaspora can be felt, whether it's visual art, music, food, architecture, contributions by Black artists and thinkers. We enhance every aspect of our global cultural experience. Everywhere we go, there we are. And that's kind of some of the backdrop for Adama. Today, we are joined by 3 dynamic panelists, Courtney Brooks, artist, curator, Journey of a Black Girl founder, Eugene Bird, artist, curator, founder of Future Dead Artists, and Joshua Dingle, who's also an artist, curator, Marvelous Black Boy Art Show, Spectacular Black Girl Art Show, and Feels ATL. But I will allow them to introduce themselves. So Courtney, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, greetings. Happy Sunday to everyone. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. So like Sohey said, my name is Courtney Brooks. I am a visual artist, independent curator. I'm a founder of Journey of a Black Girl, which actually came from an exhibition I had when I became the first curator in residence for the Atlanta Beltline. I'm originally from Denver. I've been in Atlanta for about 16 years now, and I just love and been just thrown into this world of art with Black creatives, and I really appreciate all the work that everyone's doing, and I'm just proud to be able to take a piece of it to, put my little fingerprint on it. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Eugene.
All right, I'm Eugene Vidal Bird III, and I am an artist, curator, designer, and just art advocate. And yeah, thanks for being here. I've been in Atlanta since '96. I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas. My family is Exodus Duster that migrated out of the South right after Reconstruction and settled in the Midwest and descended of Black Wall Street. My family's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm a Black native, which I do like to talk about that as well. But I just have a passion for the arts and pushing our culture forward because somebody got to do it pretty much. So that's kind of what I like to do, and also bring arts and culture to underserved areas. Really, it goes against the grain from art, especially at certain price points, because we try to move work, but at the same time, I have a passion for bringing arts and culture programming to low income areas, basically the hood, because they're not doing it. So I try to fill a void in doing that if I can.
Thank you for joining us, Eugene.
Thanks.
Joshua.
Absolutely. First of all, congratulations to all of you guys for doing just amazing work. I feel like I'm the new kid on the block. I've only been in Atlanta for about 7 years now. I'm from Philadelphia, so I'm a Philly migrant here. And I am an art curator. So I appreciate and I am obsessed with bringing Black people together and helping them see themselves through the lens of art and music and expression. And a founder of a Spectacular Black Girl Art Show and a Marvelous Black Boy Art Show, which are biannual exhibitions that happen in Atlanta, DC, Chicago, and now Houston. And I'm excited about this conversation.
Thank you very much for joining us. One of the things that I heard in the intro when I was reading your bios is, Joshua, you're from Philly. Eugene, you're from Wichita, Kansas. Courtney, you're from Denver. I'm from Lexington, Kentucky. And so what brought you to Atlanta? Why here? Why now? How'd you end up here and why?
I mean, for me, I came in '96, so I was a young boy. And I can't front, it was the girls. Yeah. I visited Atlanta in college, and I seen the girls, and we heard about the girls, and I was like, ooh, this is a place I would love to be. And then when I came here, I saw Black young people that looked like they had something about themselves, doing things positive, because kind of where I was from, if you had money, it was always like, oh, they was hustling, and this, that, and the third, but it was guys really is making money legitimate. So that influenced me. And then as an artist, you know, I got hip to National Black Arts Festival early. So all those things aligned that I was like, yo, you know, girls, legitimate money, art show, you know, the history of the South, because I'm a history nerd, the legacy of Atlanta's natives, that all attracted me. And I knew early, like, okay, this is probably where I need to be. And this is where I'm gonna stay, you know, to tell you the truth. I love that.
Awesome.
For me, you know, growing up, I've always wanted to come to the South. My family from Texas, so I knew I wanted to go to HBCU. Atlanta was definitely on my list, but I decided to go to Houston first. And so I went to Texas Southern like for my freshman year, and I loved it because it was you know, I was about to be around all these Black people. Denver has Black people. We have it. For people who always say there's Black people in Denver, yes. We celebrate Juneteenth and the Black Arts Festival out there, so that was like my art culture every summer. But I knew as an adult that I wanted to be around more Black people. So I started off in Houston. My favorite set of cousins moved to Atlanta. I came to visit for Thanksgiving. I was just like, what is this? Like, it was just like the weather was dope. My cousin took me to the Funk Jazz Cafe, and I was just like, I seen art vendors and afros and Erykah Badu. It was just all this like Black excellence. And I was just like, I'm moving out here when I turn 21. That's exactly what I did, because I was like, I need to go to these clubs. I was trying to party. But then I really did come out here and, you know, go to school. And then I started to like get immersed with the art culture, working on in Castleberry at different lounges and bars, and getting, you know like City of Ink and Maya Bailey and all these people that I used to follow on MySpace that became real life, and I got to see them in person. So it was just like being able to be introduced to like Black artists in person was dope to me, and just the entrepreneurship and just the history of Atlanta. I miss the So Def sign. The music, like I think my first concert was Criss Cross. So I love Atlanta. Like I've always like, I'm going to Atlanta. So that's why I'm here.
Josh, what about
So
you?
for me, a lot of the same things. I have always been driven or called. I feel like I've been called to Atlanta, if that makes sense, right? So I came from a lot of the typical reasons to the cost of living, weather, Black people just being dope as hell. And when I got here, I realized I'm supposed to be here. I actually remember my parents asking me when I was like 7, 8 years old, like, where do I want to live? Where do I want to be? And for some damn reason, I said Atlanta. I'd never been here. I didn't really have a scope of what Atlanta was. I've just always just been driven to the city. And now that I'm here, it's just making all the sense of the world in terms of why I'm here. And so and I also think where you're from gives context to how you view another place. So in Philly, there's a lot of the arts and cultural spaces are centered around our Caucasian counterparts. There's not a lot of like experiences that are centered around Black people and like expression and art. And so to come here and to walk into a lounge or restaurant and to see the attention to detail, and immediately I'm like, okay, where's the white CEO? Where's the white man that owns this place? And for someone to say, hey, no, a brother that looks just like you actually owns this place. And I'm like, I need to be here because, in Philly, I was doing a lot of great work, and there weren't a whole lot of me, Joshua's in Philly. And so I felt like I was killing it, right? Until I got here and I was like, there's like a million of me. I need to step my game up. And so it encouraged me and it took my game just to the next level, just how I thought about the world and just how I thought about Black people and art and himself.
I am very happy, and I'm sure there are literally thousands of people who would say the same, that you all decided to come to Atlanta and to grace the city with your talents and your gifts. So thinking of pop-up exhibits and non-traditional art experiences, how did you end up in this space? So I'll start with Eugene, like Future Dead artist, the gallery, like how did you end up, even, last night's remarkable show that was absolutely remarkable. How did you end up in this space doing this work?
It's really out of necessity, honestly. I think a lot of people think I just like doing this and staying up all night and not sleeping. I don't. It's because no one else is opening these doors for me. I got to open them myself. And when I'm doing art and I'm doing enough work, that work has to be seen. So it really just came out of necessity. And then at the same time, I know how it is to get a lot of those no's. So if I can be someone's yes, I enjoy that as well. So then it's like not about me. Then it's like, okay, how many, if I got my foot in the door, I want to leave it open for other people. So the pop-up exhibits just came because those are the places that we could really exhibit. Like I've been doing art in Atlanta for a long time before it's even like kind of cool now. Like before, like even Black people wasn't really necessarily supporting the shows, to tell you the truth, like the younger people. It was all about the Black music scene in Atlanta. So it was a lot of no's. And then a lot of the spaces were sometimes white spaces, but I shown at Art on 5, Apex Museum, you know, I saw Courtney said Funk Jazz, Apache Cafe. All these Black spaces fueled my drive to keep going, because if I'd have got too many no's, I might have not have continued. I might have just been a designer. But these couple of Black spaces said, yeah, come on. So when I had the opportunity, I wanted to do the same thing. And it just came out of necessity that I wanted to do some shows for the culture. So if no one's going to do it, then I just had to do it myself. So it just kind of came out of necessity. And then once I did it out of necessity, I saw what it meant to other people. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I got to keep going. And a lot of time I'm just kind of responding to the universe and listening to the feedback. But then I kind of like it because, like I said, I can't go where art isn't there. You know, there's not too many galleries on the Southwest side. So I have to do a non-traditional space if I want to show there. Okay. And it's really comes down to that and just access, to tell you the truth. Okay. But I think even as I get more access, I'll still do the other stuff. Because the Zucot happened because they noticed what I was doing. And it's weird to me because a lot of people are like, oh, you're stepping up. Like, okay, like I still want to go. And it's hard because I kind of want to go back kind of still. Like even the artists, I was like, I still want to do some open submissions. Right. I don't want to feel like I'm only dealing with these people. So to me, cure-wise, it's still kind of weird because I still want to do some of these other things that people kind of think that I grew past. But it's just important. You know what I'm saying? It's important to feel voids. And those non-traditional spaces allow us to do that.
Yeah.
So Josh, which was first, right? The Marvelous Black Boy Art Show or the Spectacular Black Girl Art Show? Which came first and how did they come about?
Let me unmute myself first so y'all can. A Spectacular Black Girl Art Show came first. So I did a art exhibition called the Emoji Art Show, and it was an art show tour, and it went to like 7 different cities, and basically it focused on emotional health and how we use emojis, right? Day to day, we use emojis to express how we feel in a text message, and how do we leverage that pop culture idea of emojis to talk about emotional health. It was basically a cool way to talk about mental and emotional health. And it was really popular. And then at the end of our last show, I said, I want to create a space that allows Black women to be represented. I was just doing a lot of research and seeing that Black women were so underrepresented in museums and galleries. And I said, what would it look like to curate art shows just centered around Black women? You know, I live in the city of Atlanta. I know too many Black women artists. Let's try it out. And it ended up being the most attended art show that I've ever done. And so the first one was September 2019. We featured 25 artists. And, last week we just did it in Chicago. And just to see the same amount of energy and support translate from Atlanta to Chicago and DC and in Houston has been rewarding, to see. And so after that, it was like, you know what? it only makes sense to curate an art show centered around Black men, right? And so we, as Black men, we don't believe in vulnerability and like expression and expressing ourselves. And what would it look like to bring together 50 Black men and change the narrative of us being so hard and like isolated, and actually create a space where 50 Black men are expressing themselves through art and conversation is happening. What would that look like? And so that happened. The first one was February of 2020. And we just got done our 4th exhibition a few weeks ago. So yeah, that's been sort of the path in terms of how both of them grew and developed.
So Courtney, I remember and it could have been your first one. It was the first one I was familiar with, but it was a Biggie focused exhibit. And then I remember there was a Tupac focused exhibit. And one of my favorite exhibits I've seen in Atlanta was I don't remember the title, but it was about the A, right? Like, and all of
Catch Me in the A.
Catch Me in the A. And that was like my favorite. And then there was Journey of a Black Girl. And every time I wear my sweatshirt, every time I gift one of those shirts to somebody, everybody's like, oh my God, where did I get it? And it just evokes like this feeling. And I want to ask you, like, how did that journey kind of happen to get us to Journey of a Black Girl and this continued pop-up non-traditional art exhibit space?
So, like I mentioned earlier before, I used to work at a lounge restaurant in Castleberry. And, I had just graduated. I went to school for graphic design. And I was still just like, my passion was painting. And I was just like, I'm an artist. I'm going to start submitting my work to art shows. And I was getting denied because I wasn't, doing my research. I had submitted some abstract stuff to a pop show. I was just doing random stuff. I was just trying to get my name out there. And the owner of the space was like, Courtney, you can use this space to show your art. And I'm like, really? And so I, ended up having like my first solo show at my job. It was during Castleberry Art Stroll. And so I was a curator before I even called myself a curator. My first solo show, I had a saxophone player come out. I had a vendor, I had food. And I was just like, I was already doing it before I even, considered myself a curator. So someone reached out to me, was doing a Biggie tribute party, and he was like, hey, we want to, incorporate some art. And I was like, okay. I never, had other artists apart. So I was just like, I've already started building up these relationships from like trying to do, submitting to other art shows. And so we had about 25 artists. It was a great learning experience. I had to get, make, portable gallery walls. Had about 25 artists sending their work from California. I love hip hop. So it was a no-brainer to be like, yeah, let's do a Biggie. I'm down for that. So after the Biggie show, I was just like, well, if I did Biggie, I have to do Tupac. So that's what I did, the Tupac show. And that was a little bit more intimate. It was kind of my call. I chose a space. I, didn't have to deal with too much other, micromanaging on the other hand. But so that was my baby. And I was able to like collab with Jonathan Banks and Journey Brave. He had a school project that he was doing something with Tupac, and we ended up doing a documentary. We ended up like interviewing Goldie and Cake and Fabian, and we was talking about pop culture with Tupac. And so it was just like all these extra elements that came in on top of the art, drinks, a DJ, and now we have like a short film to help promote the art show. So early on, I was throwing myself into these like great big shows that were just like, one night, and it was all this work for one night, but I loved it. And so it just kept growing from there. And I probably curated about 10 or 15 pop-up shows, co-curated with other artists. And then I had the opportunity to do a show with Art Exchange. They were opening up a new space in East Point, and it was a brand new gallery space. And I remember saying like, okay, I love doing these pop-ups, but I'm ready to be in a space that's going to pay me to do it, right? Because at this time, I'm just like, I wasn't making any profit for it. I just was doing it for the love of it. Like if there was any profit, it went to hanging the artwork or just, buying food, buying wine, whatever the case may be. And so when I got the opportunity to curate at the Art Exchange, it was like a 3-show contract. And I just went all the way in. And I was just like, this is a gallery space. This is what I was asking for. So that was like my baby. And so the first show was the Art of Values. Again, like I've always had large shows. So it's always been like 20 to 25 artists in each show. And then I was able to do a show with Sistography, which was Black women photography. And then Catch Me in the A came, and that was like probably one of my favorite shows as well, because it was like my tribute to Atlanta and why I love Atlanta so much. And I got to work with artists that I looked up to. Like Monica Toots was like the first Black woman artist that I got to meet. And when, over the years, and I saw her, I randomly saw her, and I was like, hey, would you want to be a part of my art show? And she was like, yeah. And she was the first piece I sold that night. And so I was like, this is dope. So I know I was on this right track. So, and also being able to show artists work that were just brand new artists, up and coming artists, on the wall next to veterans, right? And so like I feel like I've been a bridge connector with that, with the different levels of artists. Like, oh, I get to be in a show with W, I get to be in a show with Maya, and there are, people who never shown before, like who's never been in the gallery space. So that feels good, just giving artists opportunity to be in those spaces with other artists they look up to as well. And so after curating like those personal shows, I stayed on with Art Exchange for a little bit as their gallery director, and just help other, bring other shows together and help hang work and, promote and all that stuff. And then during that time frame, I applied for the curator residency for the Beltline. They had the artist residency and the curator. And I was like, well, do I do artist or do I curate? Because at this point, I'm trying to balance, because I love art, and that's the reason why I became a curator, because I wanted to show my own artwork. But curating for me just took it to another path. And so my portfolio was better for curating. So I was like, well, let me just try the curator. And I got it. And I was just like, what? Like I knew when I put like the proposal together, like, dang, I've done a lot. So it's like, you have to go back and check off like all the things that you've accomplished, because you realize you do a lot and you don't give yourself enough credit, because sometimes you do all these shows and you're like, it's on to the next, it's on to the next. But like take a time to like be like, yo, I really have done some amazing things, and I've connected with so many people and maintained these relationships. So when Dirty Black Girl came around, I was like, yo, this is crazy. And so I didn't know, this was my first time doing a public curation. And I started in October 2019. I actually went to Brooklyn with Charmaine Manningfield to help her with a project, and we were just having girl talk around the coffee table. And Journey of Black Girl was born. I was just like, yo, that's gonna be my exhibition. We're gonna talk about this journey and how us Black girls, we have similarities. We're so different, but we have these same, issues, or like, trials and tribulations, but also the same joy. We can, we have these same experiences. So how can I show that through music, through art, through film? And I was like, that's gonna be my project for the Beltline. That was a very a growing situation for me. I was stressed out, but I was like, I'm learning. I had a budget that I never had before, so I had to manage the business side. So again, it was a learning process. And then the pandemic happened. 12 hours before I was supposed to showcase, I got canceled, and I was distraught. I was like, what is going on in the world? And then having to learn how to pivot through that. So we ended up doing everything virtual. So I was just really grateful for my team and everybody that still was a part of that show. I had programming where we created 15-foot long braids to hang on the bridge. And so that was like, thankful for Peter Street Station, thankful to Art Exchange for having these spaces that we can hold those workshops, and just bring a community together, like all these different generations of Black women coming together to braid these braids, and then you'd be able to showcase it. Muralists coming out, usually was one of my muralists. Angela Davis Johnson, Melissa Alexander did the film. We got to travel to New Orleans to kind of finish the film off. And so it was dope. Teresa the Songbird did her Black poem. It was just a dope experience. And so once the residency was over, I had created an Instagram page to kind of get the following up and market it. And I was like, well, I'm not letting this go. This show is over, but this is a movement. And I see how people responded to it. And so last year, or the end of 2020, I was like, well, I want to make some merch and I want to keep this movement going. And so now it's kind of transitioning into some apparel. And so I'm excited about, I should have worn some. I have my hat, Journey Black Girl hat. Oh, but yeah.
Don't miss an opportunity. Don't miss an
opportunity. Journey Black Girl. But yeah, so I just seeing myself grow from just like being an artist and a curator, and then now going into this entrepreneurial part of like selling merch of like my baby of an original idea has been a dope experience. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
I guess I wonder, so one of the things that I hear, right, is making sure that as you journey along, you're recognizing all of the work that you're putting in, and you're able to kind of share that later for whatever opportunity may arise, but also just recognizing the work and the efforts as you grow. Like I hear that throughout all of the stories. And it's important for you to celebrate yourself. It's also important that you have people and a support system that are there to celebrate you and to lift you up when things don't go exactly as planned. But I think in my work with Articulate and some of the other pop-up experiences, I wonder how you all feel. Do you feel seen, right, as an integral part of this arts ecosystem in this non-traditional way? So like when we have traditional gallery spaces, we have the white wall gallery spaces, we have the museums. When you pop up and you're doing something for a day or two, I feel like it's just as important to offer artists opportunities to get emerging artists clean spaces to showcase and sell their work, even if it's in a non-traditional way, because that's what you have available to you. But Eugene, do you feel seen as an integral part of this ecosystem by, we'll just call them the powers that be, right? The gatekeepers, the gateholders. Do you feel seen in that way? Or if you do now, did it start off that way?
I mean, by the gatekeepers, I mean, hell no. You know what I'm saying? I'm not getting no support from them, or they're not even mentioning or sharing my stuff with the juice that they have. But the community and the people, yeah. And I know I'm an integral part of this Atlanta art community because I put money into it. I know the dollars that I put into this community. And it's not just the artists, like is that whole ecosystem, because I'm feeding caterers, I'm feeding parking people, I'm feeding bartenders, I'm feeding videographers. When I have a show, people are eating off my shows. Sometimes I wasn't always eating, but other people definitely was. So I know what I've done in the community. And then the people, I still, sometimes you don't know how engaged you are from other people, you know, but during the shows you receive that validation, because either some people are directly telling you or I can just see it on their faces, you know. So the shows kind of let you know, okay, this is why I'm doing this. Like as you're doing the process, sometimes you think like, what the hell am I doing? And then when the opening time, you say, okay, this is why. Even if it's one person, I'd be like, that's why, that's my payoff. But as far as pop-ups, I mean, honestly, I don't really do pop-ups, really. I do turn non-traditional spots into like a gallery space, because I usually at least do like 4-week exhibits. But I have done earlier, like the one days, but I think they're still important, but I try not to do it because it's so hard. It's so much work. And I'm so conscious of giving the artist an opportunity to monetize it. For the curator, to me, is you can do it and get the juice, but sometimes it's harder to sell work on a one-day show. So when I know the artists are doing their thing and they're dropping off the work, I feel it's kind of hard for me to do it when I know it's only a one-day show and you may not move that piece. So I at least try to do 2 weekends at a minimum. But you know, that's all you can do. You can't really make someone buy the work, but I still think that those pop-up shows are still valid because there's levels in the art game. And sometimes those are good for like emerging artists a lot of times. But it'll give it, I said, like I told before, opportunities give people confidence to keep going. So those pop-up spaces, even pop-up curators, you know, it's giving them validation to fuel their drive.
And I mean, some of it is validation and some of it is literally money, right?
Yeah, like Articulate does a great job of monetizing that one day. And then I know y'all stretched it past one day a couple of times, but it was hard for me to do that. But they are money. And then when you go with the Black audience, a lot of times we're cultivating the audience. So they're sometimes introduction to the gallery world is these pop-up exhibits.
Yeah.
And it breaks down stereotypes of what they had in their head of what an art show is. So it's super important and they are valid. The gatekeepers may not ever validate that, but we shouldn't care. Now, we validated it and our community had validated and told us it's important. If the establishment don't, you know, it's almost like they're lost because they're just like now they're filling a void because they haven't collected Black art. So it's going to be the same thing with how they haven't embraced this type of structure. They're going to be like 50 years late, and then they'll try to emulate what we're really doing.
Yeah, I think it's important too for the artist that we have to recognize that artists, I think Ash may have mentioned, like they're layers, right? And so recognizing that artists being present, right? Having a huge body of work when it may not be the only thing they're doing. Courtney, you were working at a restaurant, like you had your hand in 3-4 different things. Bird, at some point, you may have had your hand in several things. A lot of the artists that we work with Articulate, they're not full-time artists, right? They're making transitions, but to see artists be able to make those transitions based on a pop-up art exhibit, right? Several pop-up art exhibits, you string them together and they become something else. Josh, I know that you've had a lot of success with sales at your pop-up exhibits, right? In this non-traditional format. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I agree with everything that both Eugene and Courtney spoke about in terms of how these pop-up exhibitions are, number one, like an introduction to art to everyday people, right? And it's also a launch pad for like emerging artists. So it plays a dual role that I think is very special and necessary. So I've curated close to 30 shows in the past two years. And what we do is we send like a feedback form to say, hey, so-and-so, give us a range of about how much, you've sold in terms of your art. And we collected that data, and proud to say we've generated close to $650,000 in the last 2 years, funneled directly into the pockets of emerging artists. And to hear stories of, for example, I was in Chicago, which I've never seen so much art sold in any show like I saw it 2 weeks ago in Chicago. One of the girls came up to me. So the show was from like 5 to 11 p.m. And one of the artists at the Black Girl Art Show came up to me. She's like, "Hey, Josh, I know it's only 8:30. I know we're supposed to stay until 11 o'clock. However, I don't have anything else to sell. Do you mind if I go home now? Thank you for doing this. I can't wait to come back." And so like stories like that are really, 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 really nice to hear. At the Black Boy Art Show, a girl hunted me down. I actually posted this. She hunted me down. She was like, "Josh, I just wanted to have a conversation with you. One of the pieces that I was not going to sell at the show, someone reached out to me after the show, and I was telling her, hey, this piece is not for sale. It's not for sale. And if you want to buy it, it's $10,000. She said $10K because no one she thought was going to purchase it for $10,000. It was a piece that was like dear to her heart. And then, the patron, they were like, yes, tell me where to send that check. And that $10,000 paid her rent, helped her take care of her kids for the last, for the next 6 months. And so like hearing those stories, like Eugene said, validates, right? And so even if you don't feel seen by gatekeepers, those stories keep you supported, right? And it tells you that what you're doing is making more of a impact than what you think. Because although it was only one day, the residual conversations that happen beyond that one day, you can't even really quantify, right? And so for me, my art shows are built off 3 principles. Number one is community, right? Community is important. Artists need to feel seen and supported by others that understand their language, right? It's one thing to be gifted, but but what sense does it make to be gifted and you don't have a tribe, right?
Right.
Talent without support is like a recipe for disaster. It's going to affect your mental health. So many artists that we know, right? So gifted, but they're lonely, right? And it affects their emotional and their mental health. So community is important. I'm gonna be quick. The next one is commerce. So basically what Black artists, period, just need more marketplaces that drive sales, right? We talked about the disproportionate amount of representation of Black artists. We're, like Eugene said, let's create our own door, right? Let's not wait for somebody to open the door. Let's build our own door. That's exactly what we're doing when it comes to these pop-up, exhibitions. And then the third principle is conversation, right? And so powerful art make people talk, right? It makes us talk. If I don't know you, you don't know me, this piece sparks conversation. And that's what we need in our community, from social justice to anything. We need to continue to spark conversation. Things change through conversation. Art does that. And so, yeah, I definitely feel seen. Being on this panel today makes me feel seen. So thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you for that insight. We will certainly remember your 3 C's as relates to ourselves, but no, the community, the commerce, and the conversation. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
And really, in a way, the pop-up experience is probably one of the underappreciated, but in reality, it's one of the most important opponents of it, because you're reaching so many people. Like when you're doing that pop-up experience, like if you're doing the real polished, glossy galleries, if you look, it's really cycling maybe 15 Black artists all over the country in these that's all you're really engaging. These pop-ups, like Courtney said, sometimes maybe you have 50 artists, this, that, and the third. You're reaching so many people, and you're bringing up the youth, because I'm 40 now, so I'm conscious about that young artists as 18, 20, that I don't want them feeling like they can't make a career like I did. So like I want to break down those barriers early, and to the young parents, so parents aren't telling them not to do art. That's what that pop-up traditionally smaller market really does. We're really raising more artists than some of the other galleries can.
I think there's something to be said too, to just return on investment, right? So we talk about ROI, and some of the larger galleries, larger institutions with much larger budgets don't have the same return on investment dollar for dollar that a pop-up non-traditional art exhibit might have. Definitely believe that to be true. So speaking of monies and funding, just a segue, like what are your funding sources? I was having an interesting conversation with a friend about paying to get into an art exhibit. And my friend's like, why would I pay to get into a space, right, to buy a thing? Like what is that is happening here? And I think it's something interesting to be said about a traditional gallery model and what that split looks like, or a pop-up art exhibit and how that may differ. But what are your funding sources, and how do you answer that question around why should I have to pay for an art exhibit?
Now, can I actually break it down? Why should the artist pay to be in the art exhibit, or why should, as a patron, I'm paying to go to an art exhibition?
Patron.
Okay.
As a patron, why would you pay for an art exhibit? Like art exhibits, like you can go to a gallery for free. We pay to get in the museum, but that's another conversation, right? We have to have a membership. But there are some who wonder, like, why for an art exhibit where I'm going to come and spend my money? Why should I have to pay to enter through those doors? I have some answers, so but definitely wanted to hear from you guys. Why is that potentially a necessary component for how you structure your events?
Sometimes it's just, again, one of those things out of necessity. I mean, I've done hundreds of exhibits. I really don't like putting financial barriers for my community to view art. It kind of really goes against Future Dead artist grain. So forever, I never really charged for art. Really, this year is the first time I started doing tickets after I did enough general admission tickets. Like I would do 200 free RSVPs. And then after the 200, I started charging this year, kind of out of necessity. And people were okay with it. And I was surprised. But I felt like I already gave 200 free RSVPs. Like at that point, I didn't feel as bad that some people had to pay. But I don't like putting financial barriers, but sometimes it's just out of necessity. In order for me to keep doing these curation events for the community, I have to get paid. And it's not like the person is making money off of you're hustling. It's just so you can continue doing this. You're enjoying it, right? You don't want one of these and it's gone. Then every time you see me, you're going to be asking for another show, And if a person paid where you say, why do they have to pay? And they're going to buy something, if you bought some art, I'm sure everyone would refund your admission price. You know what I'm saying? Like, you broke bread. The problem is the reason why we have to charge you because enough of y'all ain't buying art.
I know art.
If y'all were buying art, we wouldn't do that, you know, or buying merchandise or buying drinks. We wouldn't do that. But the problem is too many people use art shows as a pregame before they go out. So they come to us and get liquored up and then go pay to get into a club or go pay to go to a concert. So we understand that as curators. So sometimes you have to pay, but they got to understand that it goes back into the community. So the reason why you should want to pay is because you should want to support the arts. You're not supporting no bins payment. You're supporting the arts. Most people that I know curate shows, they're putting probably 60 cents out of every dollar back into the community. And if you really value art, you wouldn't have no problem. And the people who are saying that, you don't really support the arts, to me, because otherwise you would understand. But at the same
part
time,
of this conversation, right, is to influence understanding and to offer in a space where it may not exist. So
it's expensive to put these shows together, and it's like months of work sometimes. And sometimes we don't make any money as curators. Sometimes I had a lot of times I was in the red doing shows.
It's a model, right? Like we're not necessarily. I know for Articulate, the artists keep 100% of what they sell. And some people are like, oh, you should take 30%. You should take. That's our give back to the artist. But we are going to ask you as a patron to purchase a ticket. So there are these various balancing acts, and it's all a part of the ecosystem. But to your point, you know, you may pay to go to the high, or you may pay to go to the club. So here it is that you're paying for this exhibit to make sure that Eugene Bird can continue to produce and curate these shows, because we shouldn't be out here working for free.
I know.
But I think part of the problem is, and now we can speak on this a little bit, about government and institutional and sponsorship support. And is it lacking in these spaces where, because you're non-traditional or not a scene, not the current hot commodity, how do we kind of get through those barriers in terms of sponsorship and dollars that should be out there and available to us, or whether that's local city government, county government, state government, whatever it is?
Yeah. So for myself, the first like year or two, I had I still don't have a consistent sponsor or anything. The majority of my shows are just from the muscle, from registration fees, tickets, and, you know, things like that. I feel like in the space where what I'm doing is attractive enough to a sponsor. So, you know, there's that whole idea, you know, build it and they will come, right? And so I was definitely stressed out for the lack of support and sponsorships and donations. And at some point I just say, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to build it from the muscle and let the people validate it. And so I think I'm now in the position where sponsors are starting to like be interested, and maybe that's because they see the work. And so that's sort of a space that I'm sort of getting into in terms of what does a sponsorship look like? What does it look like for the community and the government community to you know, support what I'm doing? And so I'm, you know, like interested in kind of hearing, you know, what you guys are doing, and, you know, and like what that looks like.
I think for me, like in the beginning when I was doing pop-ups, again, I didn't really charge guests to come in. If I did have ticket sales, it would be like an incentive, like, hey, you get this ticket, you can get a free drink or something like that, right? I had to incentivize like why you're buying this ticket. Later, when I started to be paid from institution, like as a curator, I didn't have to worry about that. But it's not until I got into the public art that I see like how the funding works, and, you know, doing proposals and trying to apply for grants. Like the process of it is so tedious, and there's always this kickback, and it's just like, or looking for sponsorship, and you want to have your sponsorship deck ready to go, and you have to hire, you know, you can't do all of it on your own. So it's important to have a team. So when you have like a marketing person or someone that's gonna do your promo for you, send out these emails, that's a job in itself, keeping these relationships, trying to contact people. trying to get money. You feel like you're begging for money, and it's just like at the same, like Josh said, like at the end of the day, you're just gonna end up doing it yourself. We gotta end up paying out of pocket ourselves, and then hopefully it'll come back to us. So I wish not wish. I mean, I'm sure it's out there. You just have to do the research. But again, that's another job in itself, trying to find sponsorship or, to show that what I'm doing is worth you give me your money, right? And so I appreciate this platform. I appreciate, all the movers and shakers in Atlanta that help put money in artists' pockets, and myself as a curator, giving out resources or educating us to things that I probably didn't know about. But the literacy of actually filling out these applications and where you live at, and it's all this, it's all that plays a factor.
Yeah.
And what quarter you're in, when is the best time to reach out? Okay, it's about to be holiday season. Should I be looking for a sponsorship for next spring? When y'all giving out the money? You know what I'm saying? When is what is the best time to know when to ask for sponsorship? Or if the funding's gone, maybe next time. And it's well, I need funding now. So it's interesting. It's an interesting space to be in.
Yeah, so for me, it's been self-funded. It's been out of my pocket. It's been robbing Peter to pay Paul type of stuff. And also I just really do believe in the power of selling art. So I really try to make my money come from selling art as much as possible, even though it doesn't always work. But it's self-funded out of my pocket for years. This is the first year that I really started getting some type of funding.
Yeah.
And it was really because I was like, I cannot continue this. I'm putting my family in a strain because of art, because I'm kind of not paying my personal bills trying to put these damn shows together. So this is the first year I did that. But when it comes from the city, I got some support from Fulton County. They have given me some support to create some bodies of work and stuff like that. I got the Elevate grant. So Atlanta does a little bit of stuff, but when it comes down to it, you got to study the research. From 2018, the data shows Atlanta only gave 11 cents per citizen to the arts. So they don't even have a lot of money, or not Atlanta, Georgia. And then there are 48 out of 50 states that support the art, 48. So there is no money from municipality really in the arts. And that little bit of money, I got some from Fulton County. So in that regard, I'm kind of thankful. But so then you got to look at sponsorships, because they got long dollars. So and developers is where it's at too, because they're coming and muscle into our city. And sometimes as artists, we got to take advantage of that, because low key they use us to have an easier conversation about gentrification. You know what I'm saying? You got to understand all these things, but they use you got to use them. So it's the same thing with the corporate. After 2020, a lot of these white companies are trying to act like they're cool with the community. So they're trying to sell product to us. So sometimes you pitch them, that's how I did the Maker's Mark. I heard that they wanted Art Beats and Lyrics with W and Jack Daniels. These other companies know what Art Beats and Lyrics done to the art community, so these other companies want in. So I just heard it through the grapevine, so I just pitched them. 2020 in quarantine, I was making pitch decks. It wasn't no show, so that's what I was doing, trying to get money for this year. And they are the ones that bid. So some of that, we don't get some of that money because us at the ground level, we're so busy trying to make money, we don't have time to stop and put a proposal together a lot of times. That's kind of our downfall, that our engine is always going. So if we take 3 weeks off to do a proposal, we ain't making no money for some maybe money. So that's kind of the problem. But the thing is, some of these people see what we're doing, so they got to be at least tap us on the shoulder and kind of make it a little easier for us. Because for me, I do pretty much it all. I am doing the marketing proposals. I am doing this. I am curating. I am painting. But I do understand, to make it sustainable, so I don't have to charge, because I don't really like charging. I'd rather get the money from them. And then I can say, okay, y'all go ahead and come in for free. And then sometimes if I can do that, I don't even got to take a lot of commission from the artist, or maybe even no commission, because I already got paid. So I think all of us on this call, we have got the body of work that we should be getting some money. But at the same time, we have to go after the money. And we have to, Yeah.
But I think we also too just need to be mindful, like you made the comment about the developers and coming in and what we say yes to, and kind of what we allow. So Ash has said, our leadership isn't fighting hard enough, right? So when you're being asked to do certain things and you're being paid weeks, months, 6 months after you've already done what you were contracted to do, that's problematic. Or
Right.
a developer who comes in and contracts 20 pieces of work from 20 artists. They're like, oh yeah, we need you to have your art delivered by this day and you should expect payment in 45 to 60 days.
Right.
That's when artists have to start saying no, but they have to be aware. And so these conversations and the continued education of those particular systems that aren't right for us and don't benefit us, and corporations and the city are literally taking advantage. So one of the best outputs coming out of Atlanta is all of this artistic capital, right? Culture capital, creative capital, and they're able to kind of pay for it after the fact, right? Like, let me put my stamp on this. Yes, you did this for the city or whatever it was, but we have to start forcing people to kind of do right by us in a way that they may not be prepared to. So disrupting those systems. To that end, I have two final questions, but one, how can Adama support you in your efforts, right? So as Adama continues to grow, take form, take shape, wanting to be supporters of this very important work that you and others like you are doing, how can we be of support to you? And then two, do you have anything coming up that you would like for our audience to know about?
I would say this platform, again, I talk a lot about conversation. This conversation here is supportive in ways that we can't even see right now, right? And so this is my first time speaking in this context to curators doing a lot of really great work similar to what I'm doing, and the inspiration that comes from that will multiply 10 times over. And so continuing to do things like this. For me, I have an exhibition. I guess my biggest exhibition in Atlanta coming up is a spectacular Black Girl art show. That's December 4th. We're featuring 100 Black women artists from in the city, but also from around the country. 30% of them fly into town to actually be a part of it too. And so that's December 4th in Atlanta, location to be determined. Yeah, thank you again.
Thank you.
I'll have to agree with Joshua said. Adama, I appreciate this platform and everything y'all have done thus far. Like, I've learned so much. It's been great listening to other artists from across the diaspora. And so being able to talk about Atlanta artists and curators is definitely a privilege to be here. And so just keep putting the conversation out is what's helpful for me. For me, what I have going on, there's some things in the works I can't really say until the paper is signed, to the contracts are signed. So he's like, I want to put it out there so I know for sure. But I'm looking at some art residencies. I want to, I'm so inspired by Eugene because his artwork last night was amazing. And I was like, I know as a curator, I can sit down and do my work. And so shout out to Ash Nash from Powerhouse because she gave me a residency for a month in July and I was able to focus on my art. So I want to continue that space because I love curating, but it's just again, it's been this balancing act for so many years of me curating for everybody else and then still trying to focus on my artwork. So definitely want to work on more of my artwork and getting ready for the holiday season for Journey with Black Girl. So some new merch coming soon.
That's what's up. Yeah, and I would say likewise, echo some of the sentiment is, this is a good start, including us in the conversation and just, kind of continue that thing and, just keep my name. Like if a conversation comes up that's suited for me, say my name. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like that's what that's about because this is a relationship game. So, that's how we can keep each other doing what we're doing is by looking out for each other. Because really in reality, we all we got. I mean, I don't care if you got corporate sponsorship. I don't care if you got the government. You go lean on your peers. You're going to lean on artists. You're going to lean on curators. Like, so I don't want us to be in a bubble. So, you know, like, I like now, like even this conversation. So I got to make sure I share a Black Boy Art Show next time on my platform. You know what I'm saying? Because now I have no excuse because I'm talking to the brother. You know what I'm saying? So those connections are good, and we just got to continue to champion each other, and especially when someone has a real light net that casts a wide net. You know what I'm saying? Reel some of us into that conversation, because that's what it's all about. I do that, and I will continue to do that, and I hope other people would do that for me, you know. And then from there, I think everyone's here is capable of fending for themselves just with a little support.
Yeah, true. All the above. And like, and everyone just keep collaborating with each other. Like Joshua, I definitely want to collaborate. Huh?
Yeah, I was in that Biggie show. I didn't know that was your first joint.
You were. That was my first one. You was in that Biggie show, definitely. And my first gallery space was at Future Gallery when I did the solo show for Mike. Yeah. So so we've been working together since dope. So Joshua, you up next? And we're gonna get Journey of Black Girl on that marvelous art girl show. I mean, spectacular Black girl show.
Yes. I think to end it, that's the start, right? So if we're all doing great work, finding ways to help each other, you know what I mean? Like, while we wait for support from gatekeepers and opportunity, our job is to hold hands and to rise together. So,
and people too, like I'm here to help other people shine if I can. Like, people have got this reputation. When I did the Beltline, people said, "Oh, I heard you do good proposals." I'm trying to get in that. A lot of people ask me that. I sent them the proposal. I said, "This is what I sent." You know, the structure, you do it yourself, but sometimes people never even seen how to do a proposal. Right. I literally emailed that to people just because they asked. Right. So I would continue to do that too, on record saying that, but you know, we do that for everyone, like all of us. If you know, each one teach one, you know what I'm saying? That's the generation I grew up on.
Right. And just as an aside for Sohei Solutions, one of the things that we're working towards is actual curriculum. So outside of just tax preparation and that sort of thing, but completing actual grant proposals, right? Like walkthrough classes. And so there's some really interesting, exciting things in the work, but I think we do have to educate one another and lean on one another to make sure that we're getting into these spaces and these opportunities. Thank you all for the wonderful conversation. Thank you for sharing. We really appreciate it. As a quick closeout and piece of housekeeping, be sure to follow Adama on social media platforms. So it's ADMA_ATL on Instagram. For the season 4 of the Art Salons, October 24th, the conversation is Art and Politics, Politics and Art. Have some wonderful panelists slated for that. November 14th, it's around spaces. So art spaces in and around the city of Atlanta. And December 12th is Dance and Movement. So we hope that you guys will come back and join us for those conversations. Permanent is a part of Elevate, October 29th. If you follow us on those social media platforms, you will be sure to hear about it. And last but certainly not least, you can go to adamatl.org to donate to these efforts in whatever capacity you so feel fit. But please continue to follow. And if you have any questions, anything you need, there's a contact form there, and we're definitely happy to reach out. Please also take the opportunity to go to our social media and follow these amazing curators, artists, founders in their own rights, so that you can keep up with what they're doing as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoy the wonderful weather. Enjoy y'all Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sunday, fun day. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.